Hey everyone, and welcome back to my COD Zombies Retrospective Series, where we take a trip back in time to look back at every zombie map's Easter eggs, cut content, development history, gameplay lore, and more.
And today make sure to grab your Smith & Western, as we'll be looking at the Wild West Town underground, Buried.
You will stay forever.
So, starting off with the development history, Buried was the third DLC map in Black Ops 2, releasing in July of 2013 as a part of the Vengeance map pack, and Buried was also the last ever Victus map inside of Black Ops 2 until Tag der Toten, featuring the Transit crew. Buried was developed alongside Mob of the Dead as a part of the COD Zombies team headed by Jimmy Zielinski. As you see, Mob of the Dead was mostly made by Jason Blundell's campaign team, as well as the fragments of the multiplayer team and some of the Zombies team for Black Ops 2. Buried is based off a real life location, which is also a ghost town, believe it or not, and a former mining town in California. If you look at the two, they share lots of similarities, including buildings, layouts, and more. Buried's description in-game is as follows. Are you afraid of the dark, tight spaces? Confront your deepest fears as you battle the undead in an underground obstacle course of mental challenges. You are now Buried. Buried also initially had a very mixed reception at launch, similar to Transit Die Rise in the Broken Earth saga, but in my opinion, and in the eyes of many other content creators and zombie casuals alike, this map ages like fine wine due to the innovation, soul, ambition, the western aesthetics and soundtrack, as well as the sheer freedom given to the player. So our story starts with the old western town that was shifted underground due to the tectonic plates as well as temporal rifts, known in lore as either Resolution 1295 or Purgatory Point in the 1800s. This town featured a prison, candy store, church, stables, saloon, and many more locations. After the events of Der Eisendrache in the 1300s, the Wolf King's loyal servant Arthur was teleported via temporal rifts to Resolution 1295 in 2035 Angola, where he was later locked in prison in Purgatory Point. Purgatory Point is also the birthplace and home to Jebediah Brown, who is the original maker and designer of the iconic Pack-a-Punch machine. The Keepers, also known to the townsfolk as Angels, came to Jebediah yet again, who also instructed him to design both the Pack-a-Punch machine, the Apothicon device seen in the Tag der Toten Easter egg quest, as well as the Elemental Shard, also seen in the Alpha Omega Easter egg quest, which was later acquired by Broken Arrow at Camp Edward, which is also known obviously as the main location as Nuketown Zombies, as well as in Alpha Omega. Purgatory Point was also a mining town in the 1800s, mining element 115, which turned the townsfolk mad, causing delusions, sickness, and later turning them into the undead we see in Buried. Buried takes place in the Broken Earth saga in Angola in 2035, after Purgatory Point is shifted during a temporal shift in the 1800s. It features the Victus crew Abigail Misty Briarton, Marlton Johnson, Russman, and Samuel J. Stuhlinger, who all return as the 4 playable characters, who arrive at an old western town now located beneath the mining facility in Angola. The Victus crew discover Arthur in a jail cell, who assists them on their journey. The voices of Maxis and Richtofen return, reaching out to our crew, basically begging them for help. They activate the final polarization device in Maxis' favour. This is the actual canon choice. However, Maxis, now corrupted by the Dark Ether, he reveals his true intentions to Vixus and punishes Richtofen by trapping his soul into a zombie for all time. Drawn into Argatha by her father, Samantha witnesses the evil that has corrupted him after the ending of the Moon Easter egg. When a rift opens up in Dimension 63 in 1918, Samantha reaches out to that timeline's Maxis for help in the next map, Origins. In the background lore surrounding Buried, we also learn that the groups known as the Flesh, as well as the groups that are trying to help either Maxis or Richtofen, who are eating zombie flesh to actually hear their voices, are fighting each other and have a great battle where most of them are actually wiped out entirely. Stuhlinger, as I mentioned in the Die Rise episode, was a member of the Flesh. However, at this point they're all but wiped out, and then pretty much indefinitely, with Maxis ending the entire universe as a part of the Super Easter Egg canon ending. In Buried, in the opening cutscene, we also see remnants of the Broken Earth, with the pyramids of Giza in Egypt on their way to Angola, as well as we see police officers fighting off zombies, as well as we learn that Russman was a former Broken Arrow agent. This is later expanded upon in the map Alpha Omega, as well as classified. By the way, pretty much all of this information can be found on Buried itself, as well as in the Chronorium online, and in the extended lyrics for the Pack-a-Punch jingle, basically everything containing the Angels, the Keepers, and Jebediah Brown. Buried features a brand new wonder weapon called the Paralyzer. This thing is a wacky designed wonder weapon that paralyzes zombies and slows them down over time and eventually killing them. The gun also doesn't feature a HUD ammo counter, but instead features it on the gun itself with a small ticket ammo counter. The Paralyzer can be used to reach high rounds easily, as it's powerful enough to kill entire trains very easily, but it can also be used to hover in mid-air for a short duration, allowing you to fly over parts of the maze, barriers around the map, and reach the mine holes from below. The Paralyzer was a spiritual successor to the Jet Gun, as it's very similar in terms of animations. However, it's completely different in overall aesthetics and design. However, the Paralyzer, unlike the Jet Gun, doesn't break every time you use it. Next up, the map also features a brand new special grenade in the form of the Time Bomb. Inspired by the scientist Michael Faraday's work at the time, the Time Bomb acts as a time-travelling save point in which you throw down a time bomb and it actually saves your points, perks, which round you're on, guns, and pretty much everything. I'm very impressed when I play the map back, because the time bomb actually saves everything on the map at that point when it's thrown down, and can be used to either redo an entire Easter egg step, restart from an earlier round, or even use it as a get out of jail free card. Say for example you're on round 24 and you've got a time bomb from round 23 that you've thrown down, you can activate it, zipping yourself back to round 23 or a previous round, for example. It's also used in the Easter egg for the first ever round infinity step, where it's in black and white and you're running around trying to find the Victor's crew's dead body. Very cool step indeed. Buried features a brand new perk called Vulture, which is absolutely OP and broken in my opinion. Vulture, only appearing on Buried, it hasn't appeared on any maps since, allows the player to see perks, wall weapons, places to draw chalk wall buys, the Pack-a-Punch machine, as well as the mystery box through walls over a short distance. Also, zombies will occasionally drop small packets of ammo, which will return approximately 10% of a weapon's magazine size. Upon this, another feature is that certain zombies will release a cloud of green gas upon death, which will cause players standing inside it to be either ignored by the zombies. Such zombies can be noted by a green cloud emanating from them. It kind of looks like green stink lines, if you will. With the combination of small packets of ammo and the fact that the green gas very much acts like zombie blood seen in Black Ops 3 and Origins, this gun is broken, because not only do you get ammo returned to you quickly, you can see where all perks, Pack-a-Punch and wall buys are at all times on your screen, even through walls, but you can also be essentially free from the zombies. All you have to do is stand in a green cloud and you're safe for a short duration of time. Also being Wild Western themed, upon that also being Vulture themed, Vulture Aid fits perfectly into the overall theming of the map. Buried also features a new cowboy Smith & Wesson inspired pistol known as the Remington New Model Army, which is an old-fashioned pistol that replaces the Python and pretty much has the same damage, exactly the same, where it's basically a one hit up until round 11. This thing looks awesome and definitely fits in with the map very well. Now, remember in the story and lore section when I mentioned Arthur? Well, he's better known to the community as Leroy, because before we knew his name was Arthur, everyone just called him Leroy. Arthur is the first ever friendly AI character in Zombies who can actually move around the map and help the player. Arthur, once freed from his jail cell, roams around the map, in which he returns to it when shot. Arthur has loads of abilities. I'm not going to mention all of them in this video, however I will mention the main ones. One being, when he's given booze, he will either run forward killing zombies in entire trains, or running straight into certain barricades, opening entire new areas of the map up for you. If used from extremely far away and can be well optimized, you can net yourself even more points when clearing these barriers with the booze with Leroy. Arthur can also be given candy from the candy shop to attack zombies for you, place the mystery box down at a certain place for the entire game so it cannot move. He can also move the mystery box for you, which is a really funny animation. He picks up the mystery box over his shoulder and walks around to a different location. He can pick up a crawler, carrying it around for you, again another really amusing animation. If you also go to a buildable table, if you give him candy at the buildable table, he will actually build whatever it is for you. For example, the subsurface resonator or the trample steam, he will build it for you. Speaking of buildables, the trample steam returns from Die Rise, the turbine and the navcard table return from Transit, as well as the map features two new buildables. The subsurface resonator, nicknamed as the Subwoofer, which is very similar to the Thundergun, firing out an air blast to kill zombies, as well as the Head Chopper, which attacks both the player and zombies, chopping off your head. And all of these can be used together in conjunction with one another in the Jug camping strat spot, either that or above the church, to reach high rounds as a camping strat. Buried also gives the player chalk to draw and place your own weapons around the map. There are actually question mark outlines around the map, and if you go up to these with a piece of chalk, you can place, for example, the PDW, the AN-94, or even the Galvanuckles, giving freedom for choice for all wall weapons, whilst also giving the player points for doing so. All of these features make Buried a very easy map, as you can fully open up the map, all areas, all doors, all barricades, acquire all perks, as well as even maybe double Pack-a-Punch by round 1. There's even an achievement for doing so. You can do all of this without even using the bank or the weapons locker, which both return from Die Rise and Transit as well. This is mainly achieved by properly optimizing Arthur, as well as running into barricades and the candy, as well as using the chalk outlines for extra points. Buried, taking inspiration from Transit and more so Die Rise, also features the return of parkour and verticality, with areas needing the player to jump, as well as entire planks of wood breaking beneath you if you walk on them. Next up, Buried also features a brand new special type of enemy known as the Ghost Lady. This ghostly figure can be seen in the mansion windows, whispering to the player whilst also teleporting from window to window.
This is my house. I am the lady of the house.
Once the door is opened to the haunted mansion, all of the zombies will transform into ghost ladies who will basically hover and float towards you and slowly attack you. If touched by a ghost, 2,000 points are subtracted from your points total, and ghosts will spawn indefinitely within the mansion and stop spawning when you leave the building. Every 4 to 5 rounds, players can also obtain a random perk by entering the house when the lights are on. This will cause all zombies to disappear when a player enters, and ghosts will eventually drop the perk bottle once all players are outside the mansion, or if the last ghost is killed. This lady is actually inspired off Calico's real-life residence, Lucy Lane. Remember earlier where I mentioned Buried was featured and inspired off a real-life ghost western town in California? Well, Lucy Lane, who died in the ghost town, is the inspiration, and most people even call her Lucy in the map. So after this, once you've ventured through the ghost house, you are then presented with a maze that changes every so often that eventually leads to the gazebo with Pack-a-Punch sitting just beneath it with stamina up. Like I said earlier though, a skilled player can even reach here on round 1. The maze also includes a breakable fountain that can be used to return back to the mines below spawn. Buried also featured a unique Wild West HUD aesthetic with different fonts, as well as an entire soundtrack similar to Mob of the Dead. However, they decided not to include features from Mob of the Dead such as Deadshot Daiquiri, Electric Cherry, or even the entire inventory system used to store parts in Mob of the Dead. Instead, you have to pick up each individual part individually again, just like in Transit and Die Rise. Buried's main quest is titled Mind Games, which involves following either Richtofen's or Maxis' instructions once again to build and power a pylon next to the rift. When completed, it will award the players every perk in the game until the game ends. However, Buried also features a super Easter egg with 2 alternate endings. If all 3 maps are completed for Richtofen, as well as the nav cards being placed in each respective map, he will gain control of the Ether, Argatha, and the entire universe of Dimension 63, and will actually kill Maxis as well as Samantha, as well as teleporting his soul into Samuel's body, as well as awarding the player a longer fire sale, as well as Mule Kick, where the player can hold 4 weapons. However, in the actual lore canon ending, which is if Maxis has gained control, he will be corrupted by the Ether, and Dr. Maxis will reveal his true intentions to Victus and punishes Richtofen by trapping his soul forever in a zombie. In the Super Easter Egg ending, random zombies will appear with blue eyes, and once killed, you'll get a quote from Richtofen. However, all of the zombies on the map, as well as the skybox, will change to the eye colour of it's kind of like a yellowy orange, indicating that Dr. Maxis is now in control. Maxis also ends Dimension 63 completely, killing all life on Earth. However, don't worry, Victus do manage to escape via the zombie comic books, as well as the story going into Blood of the Dead and Black Ops 4. The song Always Running by Maluka and Kevin Sherwood can also be activated as this map's Easter egg song, and can also be heard if the player activates 3 teddy bears scattered across the map. The map also features bonus Easter egg songs from Dead Ops Arcade, but there's also side Easter eggs. For example, when getting a bullseye on the dartboard in the saloon with the ballistic knife, the piano behind the player will then start to play by itself. If the player goes through the back of the mansion, Lucy Lane, the ghost lady, can be seen playing the piano. When tipping her 10 points, she will give you a free perk. Also, as mentioned earlier, as a part of the Super Easter Egg quest for both Richtofen and Maxis for all maps, an Easter Egg tracker box machine in the courthouse shows which players in your party have completed the Easter eggs on Transit, Die Rise and Buried, and it also shows if players have completed either Richtofen or Maxis' paths on the Easter eggs for each map. This can also be completed on solo via the Plutonium mod on PC. So now we're talking cameos and map appearances. Buried appears in Blackout as Ghost Town in Black Ops 4's Blackout Battle Royale mode. This version of Buried appears as a higher res version with a grave even marked for Arthur outside of the courthouse and church, as well as cleaner looking assets, as well as different areas entirely. This version of Buried was also a cut version for zombies. You see, back in the day, if Black Ops 4 had performed well, they had actually planned another Chaos map, as well as a Zombie Chronicles 2 DLC 5 of sorts, where they would have had remastered and remakes of Transit, Die Rise and Buried, and according to leaks, the assets for Buried were all but completed, and this is all but confirmed in Ghost Town in Blackout. This version of Buried also lets you access the maze, the mansion, all of the borough, the main streets, and everywhere else. Buried, like other maps in Black Ops 2, also features the modes Turned, where you can play as zombies and it's almost like a gun game survival infection mode, as well as Grief mode, where you have 4v4 with the CDC and CIA agents fighting each other to see who is the last one standing. This also takes place in the borough, without certain barricades blocking areas off of the map. A small fractured portion of Buried is also featured in Revelations, notably the area between Mob of the Dead and Origins, as well as again between Kino and Der Eisendrache. Now this has sort of been confirmed by Treyarch, however this isn't fully confirmed, unlike, you know, other areas of Revelations like Shangri-La, which are obviously Shangri-La for example. However, the sort of round change music and other sound effects from Buried are reused in Revelations, so it does make a lot of sense. Okay, so for this episode there's not actually many growing pains for Buried. I didn't really like Buried in 2013, in fact I really hated it. And to be honest, to this day I can't really remember why. I think I found the map too easy and a bit too complex back in the day, but nowadays I love Buried, finding it in my personal top 10 maps of all time. I really think the maps aged like fine wine, you know, applying freedom to players. It was Zelensky's last map, so he just threw everything at the wall to see if it would stick. He gave you all of the buildables as well as some new ones, a great wonder weapon, the ray gun Mark II, and so much more. If I had to nitpick though, I hate it when I'm training on Buried on high rounds and Arthur just steps in your way and you have to wait an entire round to spawn a new key to free him from his cell. Also, sometimes when trying to get Arthur to break a barrier from extremely far away, especially with the jug and the chalk room barriers, he will actually bounce off maybe a tiny rock or a tree or a brick on the floor and even glitch out, wasting an entire precious booze bottle attempt by he'll just run into a wall and waste it completely. And again, I'm not sure why PhD Flopper, Deadshot Daiquiri and Electric Cherry didn't feature, even though yes you can get permaperks for Deadshot and PhD on Buried. Maybe it would have made the map even easier to include all of these perks, but to be honest, PhD would have helped with negating full damage from the upper mines, as well as using things like the ray gun and the Mustang and Sally. Okay, so welcome back to Trivia Time. This is the section of the video where I give you some cool facts about Buried you may not have known. Did you know, the Vengeance map pack was also the first ever map pack DLC in Call of Duty history to include a DLC weapon in the form of the Ray Gun Mark II. This version of the ray gun is definitely a Mark II. It's a marksman rifle that fires large projectiles themed after the ray gun. It's a lot stronger than the ray gun, it has a lot more ammo, and it does a lot more damage going into high rounds. The ray gun Mark II can also be used to sort of propel you backwards in the air, basically negating the mud in Origins. You can actually outrun the tank, as well as you can, in Transit, Origins and Buried, reach entire areas of the map that are completely cut off by firing backwards with the ray gun Mark II. Did you know, in the spawn room of the processing mines in Angola, if you jump up to this ledge, you can buy the LSAT as soon as round 1 for 2,000 points. However, if you stand too long on the platform, it will break and then you'll fall down to the mines of the map. Did you know, inside the Ghost's mansion there are several portraits of a real-life scientist named Michael Faraday, as well as the real-life Lucy Lane, who is the inspiration for the Ghost Lady. Did you know, when not in the maze will randomly change to one of 7 different configurations every 10 seconds. This can be seen in God mode, no clip mode, or theatre mode, for example. Did you know, if the player listens closely to the dry gulcher shaft in Buried, you can hear footsteps running as well as a little girl laughing. This can also be heard on Transit, as well as these sound effects are also reused in the mine shafts in Revelations. Did you know, the loading screen follows the tradition of teasing the next zombies map through a ripped corner of the page. By the way, fun fact, I just really miss when Zombies did this with the loading screens. It was such a cool feature to tease the next map before it came out. Buried's loading screen features what appears to be a blueprint in the upper right corner of the loading screen. This is very similar to Derise's and the Giant's loading screen. There is also a Group 935 logo teasing Origins, which was the next map to come out. So, in conclusion, Buried is a fantastic map. It's casual friendly but complex with lots of different buildables and parts and features and Easter egg steps. At the same time, it gives you lots of freedom, especially if you're a Zombies veteran, for example. Buried allows you, the player, to fully set up by round 1 by properly utilising and optimising the candy mechanics, parkour, as well as the booze with Arthur. With a decent ending as well, with both Easter egg endings, Buried acts as Jimmy Zielinski's final map before he was terminated from Treyarch in December of 2014. Jimmy Zielinski, who at the time was an animator and a gameplay designer at Treyarch, who then went on to be the director of Zombies. He was the Jason Blundell before Jason Blundell. Jimmy Zielinski had a lot of soul and ambition when creating Zombies. However, these innovations and ambitions to Zombies, like for example the elements of Transit and Die Rise, were met with divides in the player base. Some people loved the features, some people hated them. All of these features in Transit, Die Rise, Nuketown, Buried, for example, were all later brought back and refined by Jason Blundell with Origins, Mob of the Dead, and later on with Black Ops 3 Zombies. I will always love Buried for its Wild West theming, soundtrack, and ending to the Broken Earth saga. That was definitely not perfect in Black Ops 2, but I still hold a lot of love in my heart for this underground western town. Anyway everyone, tell me in the comments below what did you think of today's video and what are your favourite memories whilst playing Buried. Thank you so much for watching the video today, and for more videos from the Call of Duty Zombies retrospective videos, I've already got videos on World at War, Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2, so if you want to check out maps, for example Transit and Die Rise, I'll have them on screen as well as in the description below, as well as the playlist at the end if you want to binge the entire playlist. Thank you so much for watching today. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and goodbye.